necessary sustenance can be guilty of a Class 1 misdemeanor. Senate Bill 573, proposed this year, specifically requires adequate shelter. The shelter must protect each animal from the elements and not readily conduct heat when the air temperature is greater than 85. The bill passed a first reading in the Senate in March and has a ways to go before becoming law. Most municipalities have their own rules. Guilford County's code requires pets have adequate shelter from the elements, and the tethering ordinance from 2014 makes it illegal to tie up a pet outside without supervision. The City of Charlotte's ordinance doesn't require supervision, but sets tether parameters requiring access to shelter. Yeah, heat stroke can be very serious in pets. The ASPCA wants you to be mindful of life-threatening symptoms like a seizure or an elevated body temperature of 104. With your Verify, I'm Megan Malaris.
Da, da, da.
Got to be smart with the heat and the pets, yeah.
It's true. And my dog is bougie, and he does not like to even go outside to go to the bathroom when it is like a degree above 90. So sometimes it's a pick up, walk him to the grass to pee, and then pick up and having to carry him back. So he knows.
This sounds like a good IQ. I think we need to see this in a package form. Maybe you carrying Roger out to the grass and then carrying him back and keeping him heat smart.
Yeah, he does the same thing with snow. Like the first time we had snow in Charlotte, what was that, back in 2022? It was like a step off the patio, and he looked at me like, You're kidding if you think I'm going to walk on this. But do you have dogs, Tim?
Yeah, they know for sure. I don't have dogs. We do have 2 cats. They're inside. They don't know if it's hot or cold or anything. They don't like thunder, so they know about that. But you mentioned the snow. We did bring Figaro the cat outside once in a snowstorm, and he was just thoroughly disgusted by it. So doesn't find the snow appeal like many of us do. But yes, he wouldn't like the heat either because he has a big black and white coat of fur, and it's just too hot for them, right?
Yeah. I actually think you brought up an important thing. I mean, cats, like you said yours are indoor cats. A lot of people have outdoor cats. A lot of stables, people have farms and things like that, maybe have the barn cats that kind of go in and out. You have other animals that hang out outside. It is a good reminder that if you have animals that you own that do spend time outdoors, we also have to keep those folks in mind as well. Well, we'll be back tomorrow for another edition here of Live Weather Impact. Tim, great to see you as always, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Stay safe, everyone.
Take care.
Good evening, guys. Starting our live Impact News show, Colin Mayfield. We do have some breaking news. We do know of a missing child in the Lake Norman area right now. Police up in Mooresville are looking for this child. We don't have an age. We don't have many details at all. All we know is that right now they're looking for this child along Catalina Drive in Mooresville. This is an active search ongoing, and you can see from our shot, we do have a crew on scene. It looks like they have called in help from other area jurisdictions to get more information and to get really help on this search and rescue effort. That's exactly Mount Morn Fire Department, so that's pretty close to the Mooresville area. But again, a developing situation at this hour tonight at 7 o'clock. We've been following the situation really since the early hours of today, or the evening, I should say, around the 5 o'clock news. We took this shot, so we have not had any other information come through from law enforcement at this time. So we are going to continue to keep this information on the top of our minds and to make sure to check in with law enforcement as they continue their work. We will not get in the way, but obviously want to ask more questions about this situation as it unfolds tonight. We do want to go to the White House press briefing that happened a little bit earlier today, as it normally does, with Caroline Levitt.
Everyone, I apologize for our tardiness. I was with the president. Let me begin with a few scheduling announcements today. President Trump will travel to Scotland, where he will visit both Turnberry and Aberdeen from July 25th to July 29th. During the visit, President Trump will meet again with Prime Minister Starmer to refine the great trade deal that was brokered between the United States and the United Kingdom. And the President and the First Lady will travel to the United Kingdom for an official state visit from September 17th to September 19th later this fall. This will mark a truly unprecedented second state visit for President Trump, and he is honored and looking forward to meeting with His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. There has been a wave of positive economic news over the past week, which I would like to highlight today. Joe Biden's inflation crisis has been defeated. Prices paid to American businesses for goods and services were flat in June, which is lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey predicted. And core inflation, which is the best measure of inflation, came in lower than expected again in the month of June. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1% overall and has come in below or at economists' expectations every single month. Wages are growing at a strong pace and prices are falling for everyday Americans. We also saw prices for new and used vehicles and airfares drop last month. In addition, prices for gas, fuel oil, energy commodities, hotels, airfare, public transportation, and fresh vegetables are all down over last year. As we said all along, trust in President Trump. The American dream is back, and everyday families are already reaping the benefits of this incredible economic turnaround in just 6 months. President Trump has ended the era of economic surrender and implemented powerful tariffs to stand up for our workers and businesses and rebalance America's trading agreements. Despite all of the doom casting from the so-called experts claiming that these tariffs would be the end of the world as we know it, the opposite has occurred. Tariffs are not inflationary, as President Trump has said all along. In reality, tariffs are a source of massive revenue. We're seeing trillions of dollars in private investment pour into our country right now because the companies around this world want to make their products right here with American labor and not have to pay any tariffs at all. Customs and tariff revenue has already totaled more than $113 billion since President Trump entered office, helping to lead a budget surplus in June for the first time in nearly a decade. We are truly entering a golden age as a result of these pro-growth and America First trade policies. On another matter, yesterday in the East Room, the president was proud to sign the Halt All Lethal Trafficking of Fentanyl Act into law, surrounded by angel families to help finally end the devastating fentanyl crisis that has ravaged millions of Americans. Under the Halt Fentanyl Act, anyone who possesses, imports, distributes, or manufactures any illicit fentanyl-related substances will be subject to criminal prosecution in the same manner as any other Schedule I controlled substance. This legislation will close the loopholes that criminals use to skirt around the law and make it easier for law enforcement to prosecute vicious traffickers who peddle poison in our communities. President Trump has always made tackling the drug crisis a top priority, and this important bipartisan legislation further follows through on that commitment. The complete and total success at our southern border that many in the media in this room continue to ignore is another example of the president keeping his word to families who have lost loved ones due to fentanyl, and it's another win for the American people. Customs and Border Protection just released the final operationalized stats for the month of June, and I must highlight some of these incredible numbers. There were only 6,072 Southwest apprehensions in June, 15% lower than the previous record that this president set in the month of March. To put that in perspective, the Biden administration routinely saw the same number of encounters in a single day, and on many days, that number was more than 10,000 apprehensions at the Southwest border. There were also 0 illegal aliens released along the Southwest border for the second consecutive month in a row. President Trump promised to end the illegal alien invasion, and he has delivered on that promise to the American people in record time. With the border sealed, deportations are ramping up. This past weekend, our brave ICE agents were arresting violent criminal illegal aliens all across the country. ICE Atlanta arrested an illegal alien from Mexico, convicted of attempted rape of a child in North Carolina. ICE Baltimore arrested an illegal alien from Guatemala who was previously convicted for sexual abuse of a minor in Maryland. ICE Houston arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico whose previous conviction includes aggravated sexual assault of a child in Texas. ICE Salt Lake City arrested a 32-year-old illegal criminal alien from Mexico who was previously convicted for child abuse and injury. ICE Baltimore arrested a criminal illegal alien from El Salvador convicted in Maryland for possession of child pornography. And ICE San Antonio arrested a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of aggravated sexual assault in Texas. The men and women of ICE are heroes. They are putting their lives on the line every day to get the worst of the worst, these types of criminals, out of our communities and out of our country. And the president continues to strongly have the backs of all ICE agents who are doing their jobs to keep all of us, including everyone in this room, safe. The facility, one second. In other news, following President Trump's bold executive actions protecting American children from irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation, the largest provider of these barbaric practices will now be closing its doors. The facility in Los Angeles, California is just the latest facility downsizing or eliminating their irreversible and harmful services that feed into the lie that you can somehow change a child's sex. The Biden administration peddled dangerous policies that defied medical science in favor of radical transgender ideology. But President Trump has put an end to that to ensure America's children's innocence is protected and our children can lead healthy and productive lives. Finally, last night, Senate Republicans passed President Trump's $9 billion rescissions package. This will help restore fiscal sanity in our country by rescinding billions in wasteful foreign aid and finally ending taxpayer funding for PBS and NPR, two media organizations that have ridiculously used federal dollars to push a partisan left-wing agenda for many years. The House should pass this rescissions package immediately and send it to the president's desk for signature. On another note, I know that many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House medical unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions on it. We will provide the memorandum from the president's physician to all of you, as we always do. And we'll get to questions. Here in our new media seat, we have Frank Corva, who's the White House correspondent for Bitcoin Magazine, which comes at a timely week with crypto legislation moving across Capitol Hill. So why don't you kick us off, Frank, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it, Ms. Levitt.
Sure.
I was curious to hear if the president was in favor of removing any and all language around central bank digital currencies from the Genius Act, maybe as a means to get it across the line and get it on his desk. And then my second question was about something the president spoke about in this room. He talked about a $600 de minimis tax exemption for Bitcoin and other crypto spending. So I was just wondering if you could comment on those.
Sure. Well, the president did signal his support for a de minimis exemption for crypto, and the administration continues to be in support of that. We are definitely receptive to it to make crypto payments easier and more efficient for those who seek to use crypto as simple as buying a cup of coffee. Of course, right now that cannot happen, but with the de minimis exemption, perhaps it could in the future, and we will continue to explore legislative solutions to accomplish that. As for the central bank digital currency and the Genius Act, which you noted has passed through Congress and will be sent to the president's desk. I believe the House is voting on it. If they haven't, they should be passing it. We know we have the votes, and we expect it to get to the president's desk, and we are planning a signing ceremony tomorrow afternoon. All of you will get more details on that. This piece of legislation is going to make America the crypto capital of the world, and that's what the president promised. As for a central bank digital currency, the president opposes that. He made that promise to the American people on the campaign, and while it's not in this specific piece of legislation, he did sign a January executive order banning a central bank digital currency. The administration supports Congress's efforts to codify that executive order into law, and I believe there will be future pieces of legislation in regards to crypto that will be moving through Capitol Hill. The president looks forward to signing them, and he looks forward to the signing ceremony this afternoon. So thank you for being with us today. Sure. Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law, and because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from this story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal, and that would have to be requested, and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on
Why
that.
did you fire Maureen Comey?
The Department of Justice did, and I would defer you to them. Dasha.
Has the White House been directly in touch with some of the MAGA influencers that are still not satisfied with the administration's handling? And has the message to them been similar to what the president has said, which is sort of either let this go or we don't need your support?
Well, look, the president and this team are always in contact with the president's supporters, with voices of many kinds on both sides of the aisle. I think that's part of the reason this president is a great president, because he's willing to listen and hear other people's perspectives. But ultimately, he has led this country, not just over the past 6 months to historic success, but also through his first 4 years as president. And as the leader and the creator of the MAGA movement, he has led through these perilous times for our country based on instinct and in the best interest of the country. And as I always say, the American people should trust in President Trump.
And what on
John,
the Fed chair?
Go ahead, John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. The president on Monday announced that if there's not compliance with Russia within 50 days, there would be increased tariffs. Can you explain how that works, first of all? What happens if Russia doesn't end its war with Ukraine in 50 days?
Well, in 50 days, as the president clearly laid out, if there is not a ceasefire agreement or a peace deal within that time frame, if Russia refuses to legitimately agree to a ceasefire, then they will face very steep tariffs, and they will also face secondary sanctions. So countries that are purchasing oil from Russia will be sanctioned as well, and of course that will do deep damage to Russia's economy. And I would just add that the president wants this war to end with a diplomatic solution. He's been pushing for it. This administration has spent many hours and a lot of time trying to solve this war very far away, but the president wants to stop the killing, and he wants to save lives.
As far
Reagan,
as the first part
go
of
ahead.
what you were saying, Caroline.
Reagan,
the first
go
part,
ahead.
I have two questions for you.
It's just about, if I may, just about the tariffs, the first part. I get the secondary tariffs, but there was only $3 billion worth of trade between the U.S. and Russia in 2024. It's expected to be far less this particular year. On April the 2nd, both you and the Treasury Secretary said it's not necessary to apply any tariffs on Russia. You said that because of the lack of trade, it precludes, that was the word you used, any need for tariffs. Why now, and why do you think that that would make them cave and come to some sort of peace agreement as it relates to Ukraine?
$3 billion is still a lot of money, John, and it's not just tariffs, it's the secondary sanctions as well that will be implemented in 50 days. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
First on Congress. Congresswoman Salazar introduced legislation that would give some illegal immigrants in the country a path to citizenship. 10 Republicans signed on to what she's calling the Dignity Act. I'm curious what the White House's position is on the legislation and if the president would veto this bill if it made it to its desk.
From my understanding, the White House nor the president has actually read through this legislation. We've been focused on, of course, the One Big Beautiful Bill, which passed, which is another historic accomplishment of this president in record time, the Genius Act this week, the rescissions package. That's been the focus of the White House, but the president has made it very clear he will not support amnesty for illegal aliens in any way.
And I want to give you a chance to respond to the CEO of NPR. She's claiming that the cuts to their network will, quote, be a real risk to public safety of the country. Congressman Murkowski has argued that public broadcasting stations save lives. Could you respond to these concerns?
The NPR CEO said cutting NPR will be a risk to public safety. I am not sure how NPR helps the public safety of our country, but I do know that NPR unfortunately has become really just a propaganda voice for the left. Just a few examples for you. In 2020, NPR refused to cover the Hunter Biden laptop scandal in the run-up to the election. They said their assertions don't amount to much, writing they did not want to waste the listeners' and readers' time on stories that are just pure distractions. That does not sound like an unbiased opinion. That sounds like a partisan opinion to me. And this is a taxpayer-funded organization. In 2018, that same CEO that you're talking about called the president in the Oval Office, who nearly 80 million Americans elected, she called him racist, shared a photo of herself wearing a Biden for President campaign hat, serves on the board of a Soros-funded activist group. In 2020, PBS's White House correspondent at the time characterized President Trump's speech then at Mount Rushmore as a love letter to white resentment, promoting the myth of America. In 2017, PBS devoted an entire panel talking about what it means to be woke and white privilege. In 2023, PBS's Washington Week roundtable covered up Joe Biden's clear mental divide. That's actually quite the clip. I would encourage all of you to look at it. These are not honest news organizations. These are partisan, left-wing outlets that are funded by the taxpayers. And this administration does not believe it's a good use of the taxpayers' time and money. Ed Lawrence.
Yeah, thanks, Carol. I want to ask you about the Federal Reserve. So does the president believe that the slightly restrictive monetary policy stance right now, could that cause an economic slowdown? And if he does believe that, when?
What pause are you referring to?
No, could the stance of the monetary policy is slightly restrictive? Does the president believe that stance, the slightly restrictive stance, could cause an economic slowdown in itself?
I haven't heard the president discuss that specifically, but what I do know in regards to the Federal Reserve is the president's been very transparent about his displeasure with both the policies and the management of the Fed, and he spoke about that to all of you pretty extensively in the Oval Office yesterday.
Yeah, and last month, one more if I could. Last month, the Canadian Prime Minister said the president had agreed to a July 21st deadline to sort of work towards a trade agreement. That's 4 days from now. Could there be a trade agreement with Canada in 4 days?
Well, look, we'll see. The trade team continues to be very active in our conversations and discussions with Canada. The president himself has said, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north have been pretty difficult to deal with when it comes to matters on trade. But in trade, generally speaking, as you know, 25 countries have received letters thus far from the president directly with his big, beautiful signature on them, from Japan to Korea, South Africa, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, just a few countries, and Canada also received a letter for 35%. With that said, if countries want to have legitimate further discussions, the Trump administration and the president's trade team are willing to have further talks, but these letters these countries have been receiving are the deals. And as the president has said, those deals will be made. They are tailor-made to each and every country based on the United States' concerns and what's in the best interest of the American worker and the American people.
Caroline.
Charlie, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline.
No, I called on Charlie, but Deanna, you can go ahead too. Go ahead.
The president said that he floated the idea of a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. Can you confirm that? And has he asked the Attorney General to do this, to appoint a special prosecutor to look it over?
Well, the idea was floated from someone in the media to the president. The president would not recommend a special prosecutor in the Epstein case. That's how he feels. And as for his discussions with the Attorney General, I'm not sure. Deanna.
Caroline. Thank you so much. Do you know what the president's reaction was to Mike Johnson saying that he wants additional files released, the Epstein files? Was there a conversation with Mike Johnson about that following his comments?
I won't discuss the president's private conversations with the Speaker of the House, but as I answered to Jackie's question earlier, the president has said if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice and the FBI have any more credible evidence in regards to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, they should put that forward. He has called on them to do that.
Sure. Thank you, Caroline.
With a few days.
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady in the blue. Go ahead.
With a few days to the August 9th deadline, how are the negotiations with Europe going? There's some sticking points. What are they? Can we expect a delay, or should we expect a deal soon?
Well, I believe the deadline is August 1st. As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So the President's trade team continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Would he accept, or would he put forth a postponement of the August 1st?
He's already said he will not.
Caroline,
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Caroline. In Gaza today, Holy Family Catholic Church was struck by an Israeli shell.
Yes.
3 people were killed, 10 wounded. What is the president's reaction to that church coming under fire?
It was not a positive reaction. He called Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning to address the strikes on that church in Gaza, and I understand the Prime Minister.
All right, we're going to rip away from the White House press briefing and always go back to it here in the coming moments. But we do have somebody that we do want to bring in. But after the U.S. Department of Education has been seen a ton of cuts by the Trump administration, Supreme Court's decision just this Monday lifted an injunction against the Trump administration's efforts, as I just talked about, to gut the agency, took that first step in that direction. And it could have that ripple effect to students and obviously other institutions across the country. So we want to bring in Maribel Gonzalez, who is an expert with CNN on this. Maribel, this is something we have never really seen before. So let's talk about that ruling and the Supreme Court in and of itself regarding the Department of Education. How is this decision going to impact schools and students really across our country?
Yeah, hi, Colin. Well, it will have a lot of impacts. First, at the level of the employees of the Department of Education, this Supreme Court ruling will now allow the layoff of about half of the workforce at the Department of Education. That's about 1,300 people. And then also students. We know that the Department of Education is in charge of distributing tens of billions of dollars to schools and programs throughout the country. Some of those schools, specifically, that will be most affected are those schools that have at least 40% of their students living in low-income households. Those are called Title I schools, and then also IDEA programs. Those programs are tailored to fit the needs of students with disabilities.
Really going to impact some of our most vulnerable communities, it seems like. So I have to ask this. Is this legally possible? So many people have questioned this. And obviously now with the Supreme Court ruling, this has been a campaign promise. We saw this early on before the president was elected, and it seems obviously he's following through on this. So is this legal?
So, yes, but he cannot completely dismantle the department or get rid of it entirely without an act of Congress. So we know that this is not new. There's been several administrations that have called for changes and even elimination of the Department of Education. However, those moves have not bode over well in Congress. They have not received that support. And even if the president succeeds at dismantling the programs or the Department of Education, it's still very possible that some of the funding that the Department of Education oversaw and the programs will just be distributed and shifted towards other agencies as well.
Well said, and great information to know. I want to go back to that impact because a lot of students in this area, in fact, here in North Carolina, we actually just did a story about CMS, one of the largest school districts in North Carolina and Charlotte, suing the Trump administration to get $12 million to fund certain programs. Obviously, the state's governor, Josh Stein, also calling on Congress and the administration to release certain funds for obviously schools here in North Carolina. So what other impacts or recent changes could we potentially start to see? I mean, could schools start to close? I'm sure teachers are looking at this and wondering, will salaries be paid out? What are you looking at in terms of the fallout from this?
Yeah, so Colin, we're already starting to see some summer programs and language programs struggling to keep their doors open because aside from this ruling, we also know that there are about $7 billion in educational grant money that has been frozen by the Department of Education. Earlier this month, we know that several Democratic states are now suing the Trump administration in their bid to unfreeze some of those funds. But South Carolina, the Carolinas will be affected. We did a little bit of research, and according to the National Center for Education Statistics, we talked about those Title I schools. Those are schools where at least 40% of the student population is living under poverty. There are about 2,166 of those Title I schools in North Carolina and 632 eligible public schools. So that's around 2,700, a little more than that, schools across the Carolinas that could see an impact from a cut in funding towards those schools. And then also in North Carolina, there are about 203,000 children identified as children with disabilities, according to nonprofit Public Schools First data. So we're talking about thousands of students that could see a reduction in their funds for their programs. It definitely has a widespread effect. And we've heard from the Department of Education employees who say they worry they cannot fulfill their claims with half the number of staff.
Astonishing numbers. I think a lot of folks are just waiting for the other shoe to drop and to kind of see what's next. Maribel Gonzalez with CNN, the expert in the field, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Maribel. All right, let's get back to Caroline Leavitt, who is briefing us on the things of the day at the White House. Some interesting revelations as well in terms of the president's health. Let's listen in.
With a few days,
I'll go to all of you, starting with the lady in the blue. Go ahead.
with a few days to the August 9th deadline, how are the negotiations with Europe going? There's some sticking points. What are they? Can we expect a delay, or should we expect a deal soon?
Well, I believe the deadline is August 1st. As for the European Union, they continue to be very eager in negotiating with our country for obvious reasons on ways to lower their tariff and their non-tariff barriers that we have long said harm our workers and our companies. So the president's trade team continue to be in talks with the European Union.
Would he accept, or would he put forth a postponement of the August 1st?
He's already said he will not. Owen, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Caroline. In Gaza today, Holy Family Catholic Church was struck by an Israeli shell.
Yes.
3 people were killed, 10 wounded. What is the president's reaction to that church coming under fire?
It was not a positive reaction. He called Prime Minister Netanyahu this morning to address the strikes on that church in Gaza, and I understand the Prime Minister agreed to put out a statement. It was a mistake by the Israelis to hit that Catholic church. That's what the Prime Minister relayed to the President, and you should look at the Prime Minister's statement that will be coming out. Steve, go ahead.
Back to your letter that you read at the beginning.
Sure.
The President, you said mild swelling in his legs. Is it causing him any discomfort? How are you treating it?
Nope. No discomfort from the President at all, and you probably all see that on a day-to-day basis. He's working around the clock. As for the treatments, I can defer to the President's physician, and we'll get you this letter. I think it will answer all your questions.
There are reports that a Chinese-born banker who works in Atlanta for Wells Fargo is being prevented from leaving China. Is he going to bring this up with President Xi? Are you aware of the case?
I'm not aware of the case, but I'm sure our National Security Council team is. Steve will get you some answers on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. So the first is that President Trump said that the Attorney General only gave him a brief overview of what was in these Epstein files. Does he have knowledge or an understanding of what is in the files related to Epstein that have not been released?
Not to my knowledge, and that's a question for the Attorney General, as I said, and the President has told the Attorney General if they have any more credible evidence, they should release it.
Is that evidence, would she have to run that by the President before she released it?
I don't think so. He said if she has any more credible evidence, she should release it. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes.
Great. Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. One, today...
And you can go ahead, Andrew. Don't worry.
Today, tens of thousands of folks are rallying nationwide to honor the legacy of Congressman John Lewis. Meanwhile, Republicans in Texas reportedly are working to redraw congressional maps at President Trump's urging. How is President Trump reconciling his call to action for Texas Republicans with the legacy of Representative John Lewis?
I'm not quite sure how the two things are related. I think the president would agree that John Lewis served our country for many, many years. It has nothing to do with the redistricting efforts that are currently underway by Texas Republicans to add seats to their legislature. They have the right to do that. The president spoke to the congressmen and women who serve the great state of Texas about it, but it's up to them and it's up to their legislature to get that approved.
And Carol, this is the second question. And
Go
does
ahead.
the president support the Justice Department's request for just 1 day in jail for the officer convicted in Breonna Taylor's killing? And what message does he believe that sends to her family and to other families seeking justice in cases of police violence?
I haven't talked to the president about that case. Go ahead.
Just the president, when the president met the interim president of Syria a couple of months ago, he described him as a young, tough, attractive guy. After the latest clashes in Syria over the last few days, does President Trump still support Syria's interim president?
The president still supports Syria's pathway to a peaceful and prosperous country, and you received an update directly from the Secretary of State on the ongoing situation between Syria and Israel. I spoke to him myself this morning to get an update, and as soon as the United States became involved in this conflict, we were able to de-escalate, deconflict. That seems to be continuing. Syria agreed to draw back their troops that were in the area where that clash was ongoing, and we continue to be very actively monitoring the situation. The president wants to see Syria become a prosperous and stable country, and by the lifting of the sanctions on Syria, he's giving them a real chance to do that, and he wants to see that through. Andrew, go ahead.
So on Tuesday, the president told a very detailed story about his uncle, noted scientist John Trump, and Theodore Kaczynski, the late Unabomber. He said that Dr. Trump taught Ted Kaczynski. Ted Kaczynski was not identified as the Unabomber until 1996, 11 years after John Trump passed away. It would have been impossible for John Trump to have ever discussed the Unabomber with the president. So what was he talking about? And I have one follow-up.
Andrew, with so many issues going on in the world, I'm a little bit surprised you would ask such a question, although I'm not sometimes coming from you, I will say. But I'm willing to give you an answer. Nevertheless, the president's uncle did, in fact, teach at MIT. He was a very intelligent professor. The president's very proud of his family. In fact, the president has a letter from his uncle on the MIT letterhead that sits in the Oval Office dining room. Maybe we'll let you see it sometime. Elizabeth.
Caroline, one more on.
Elizabeth,
will the president consider pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell if the Epstein case is a hoax?
Okay, I'll start off with the president said last week he would not be getting involved in the New York City mayoral case. If that mayoral race, if that's still the case, given his history drawing a large crowd in New York City, what's his reason for staying out of it in that way?
Well, look, I think the president reserves the right to get involved in races or not get involved in races, and he's made the decision not to weigh in on the New York mayoral race, as you rightly pointed out, although he has gone as far to say he absolutely does not want to see Zemdami elected, who is a known communist who supports the abolishment of private property, the defunding of police. He has made very well-known anti-Semitic statements. It would be a disaster for New York and for this country, and I think it's quite telling that this individual, a known communist, has been spending time in Washington this week meeting with leaders on Capitol Hill. This is truly where the Democrat Party is headed. Clearly, they learned nothing from November 5th in the president's overwhelming victory. Mary, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. I want to backtrack to the hospitals that have stopped providing transgender surgeries and hormones for kids. On this front, does that have anything to do with the DOJ's subpoenas last week? Should we expect any more hospitals to be shutting down their programs? And I wanted to also ask what you make of all these media reports, especially the AP, which I noticed, which portrays these children as losing something that's saving their lives.
Yes, I think the president spoke a lot about this issue, which is a political issue, but also really a cultural issue that impacts children and families. He talked about it a lot on the campaign, and I think he was quite surprised by the uptick we were seeing in the embracement by the Democrat Party when it comes to the chemical castration and mutilation of young, innocent bodies. And so the president made it a very early priority to sign very strong executive orders to cut off the funding for any hospital or any medical facility in this country that provides such barbaric procedures. And as a result of that strong policy and the president's strong common sense position on this issue, we've had such an overwhelming response, which is great for children in Arizona. Phoenix Children's Hospital has stopped providing puberty blockers and hormone therapy to minors. In California, Stanford Medicine ended sex change surgeries for minors. Children's Hospital Los Angeles is closing its Center for Trans Youth Health and Development surgical program. In Illinois, Lurie Children's Hospital Chicago stopped sex change surgeries. Again, let's think about what we're talking about here. Sex change surgeries for minors. These are barbaric practices that no child, innocent child, should have to endure. And the president wants to protect the innocence of children, and I know the vast majority of Americans support him in that effort. This is a wildly popular and common sense endeavor this administration has taken, and we've seen many of these medical institutions have followed through with the president's executive orders, but will continue to take further action on this important issue. Garrett.
I too, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
On the rescissions package, I wonder what the White House makes of this theory that it increases the odds of a shutdown. The theory is basically, why would any Democrat vote for a bipartisan spending deal with Republicans if Republicans can turn around and claw the money back the next day?
Look, $9 billion worth of crap that it was in our federal funding that is now being rescinded. This is a good thing for the American people and the American taxpayer, and I think our Office of Management and Budget Director was saying this process should be more bipartisan. Democrats, there was a time in this country where Democrats too cared about getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal spending. I think every American agrees the government spends way too much money on things that don't matter. Some of those things include PBS and NPR, or for instance, the Democracy Fund, which was funded to the tune of $83 million through the Department of State, but they were giving hundreds of thousands of dollars for gender equality and empowerment hubs in Yemen, $3.9 million for strengthening information integrity, equality, and democracy for LGBTQI population of the Western Balkans. These are not good uses of the taxpayer funds, and Republicans are proud to lead that effort, and we wish more Democrats would join us in that.
I wanted to follow up on the Maureen Comey question just to clarify. Did the White House have any knowledge, or did the president sign off on her firing?
This was a decision that was made by the Department of Justice.
There was an agreement that was made between Immigration and Customs Enforcement and the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services regarding access to Medicaid information for 92 million Medicaid recipients around the country. That includes health information. So how does that not violate HIPAA violations and privacy concerns, for example, of American citizens?
I'm going to have to defer you to Immigration and Customs Enforcement on that. I'm unfamiliar with that agreement that they made.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions. Russ Vought said today he's going to be looking into cost overruns in the Fed's renovation projects. Is there a deadline for him to come back with findings to the president?
I don't believe there's a deadline the president has set for Russ Vought, but I think, again, this is a good use of taxpayers' time to look into this project that is millions and millions of dollars over budget. It's for a big, beautiful mansion for the federal chairman, reserve chairman, and I understand that it costs much more than it did the beautiful palace that many of you joined us at when we went overseas. So it's completely unnecessary, it's overpriced, and I think it's a good thing the administration, led by the president, is looking into it.
And if there ever were to find wrongdoing or fraud, would the president reconsidering firing Jerome Powell?
Look, it's a hypothetical question. We'll see where it goes. The president spoke about how he feels on this matter yesterday.
Sure. Thank you so much, Caroline. So we saw Ambassador Huckabee arrive to Prime Minister Netanyahu's trial to show his support. Does the president plan to impose any kind of sanctions against the Israel judicial system?
I don't have any update for you on that or any announcement on that front. I don't believe so.
Does the president believe that justice has been served in the Epstein case?
Look, the president believes that he directed the Department of Justice to do an exhaustive and thorough review, and they did that. And they all agreed, the FBI director, the deputy FBI director, the attorney general, on the memo that they drafted and they released.
Thank you, Caroline. Just a follow-up on Reagan's question. Representative Salazar's bill, it grants illegal aliens with legal status for 7-year increments. It also gives permanent path to residency for so-called dreamers. And, you know, President Trump and Labor Secretary Chavez, who previously co-sponsored a version of this bill when she was in the House, they've spoken about a work deal similar to the bill, I believe. What's the difference between a work deal and amnesty?
Look, as I told Reagan, the president, the White House have not reviewed this specific piece of legislation. It's just not where our focus has been. But the president, for one, has been very clear he does not support amnesty. We'll go to, oh, look at some friends in the back. Brian, go ahead. You didn't show up early enough to get some good real estate up here.
I love it. Any update on the auto pen? I know that there was the DOJ and some others were looking into the thousands of documents that were signed off just before Joe Biden left office. Any update on the auto pen?
Yes. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing at how far away you are, and you're going to need to get some microphones back there. And the auto pen investigation, yes. The White House counsel's office has launched their own investigation into former President Biden's usage of the auto pen. We have requested some documents from the National Archives, and again, as I've said many times from this podium, and the president has said as well, it's incredibly important that we get to the bottom of who really was at the tip of the spear in the decision-making process here in the White House, because former President Biden himself admitted to the New York Times, I understand he never gave interviews when he was here, but now all of a sudden he wants to give one, and he said that he did not actually review every single pardon that he signed on his way out the door. Incredibly concerning, and I can tell you it's something this president would never tolerate. This is a president who is signing things all the time. Any document that has legal implications, this president's signature is on it because he's the one making the decisions. It does not appear that was the truth in the previous White House, and I know the American people want to receive answers on who was running the show, because the decisions that were made in this place really destroyed our country, and we deserve to get to the bottom of it. Mark, in the back.
Thanks. Some Christian groups are complaining that they are not able to get visas as quickly to travel to Israel, and it's been elevated to Ambassador Huckabee's station. Is the White House aware of that? Does it have any reaction to that? And is that part of the president's disappointment with Netanyahu and his government?
Look, I'm not aware of that, Mark, but I'm sure, again, our National Security Council is, and also the State Department. As you know, travel visas roll through Secretary Rubio's shop over there, whom we work very closely with. So we will check in on the matter. But I know overall, this president and the administration do want to streamline the visa process to make it easier for both Americans who want to travel abroad and people abroad who want to come to our country the legal way. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions for you. First,
I was going to the gentleman above you, but go ahead, Libby, and then you can go.
sorry. Okay. 2 questions for you. The first is, during the Hill Nation Summit, Secretary Noem suggested there could be some changes to TSA's liquid limits. Mm-hmm. Is the president aware of that? Is that an idea that he's backing? And what would that timeline and the changes look like?
Sure. I would defer you to the Department of Homeland Security, but I did see Secretary Noem's comments, and I think it's great that on day 1 she asked TSA, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How can we make air travel more efficient while maintaining utmost security for American passengers and travelers? And I know they announced no more shoes, or you don't need to take off your shoes anymore at the airport, which I think is welcome news to all of us who travel a lot. But further guidance or decisions, of course, that's in the Secretary of Homeland Security's overview, and I would defer to her.
And the other question for you is on Bondi and Burgum's trip today to Alcatraz. I'm curious what the funding is going to look like for that, and who the president does want to see incarcerated there, if it were to become.
Sure. Well, this was an idea of the president. He spoke about it in May, and he directed his administration to review a reopening plan for Alcatraz if it is possible, which is why the Attorney General and the Secretary of Interior have traveled there today. They are touring the site, and if the Alcatraz prison is reopened, it would be under the purview of the Bureau of Prisons, and the Secretary of Interior also would play a big role in this as well. So they're there to review the site today, and I'm sure you'll hear more from them on it later. And just to follow up, Libby, on who the president wants to see housed in Alcatraz, the worst of the worst criminals in this country, both American criminals who convict heinous crimes, but also illegal alien criminals before deportation as well. Sure. Go ahead.
The State Department yesterday urged the Chinese Communist Party to cease its campaign to eradicate Falun Gong, a peaceful spiritual practice. With the anniversary of this brutal persecution approaching, does the White House have a message for the CCP on this?
Well, I will get you one, and we will get back to you. Sure. Go ahead. We'll take. Go ahead, and then go ahead. Sure. I've never called on you. Why don't you go ahead? In the red tie.
Hello.
Dr. Harper behind.
Thank you.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Me, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes, you. What's your name?
My name is Matias. Thank you.
What's your outlet?
I'm from Record TV, Brazil.
Great.
Brazil's President Lula recently said that President Trump was elected to govern the United States and not to act as the emperor of the world. And he also emphasized that Brazil is open to negotiation. I'd like to hear what you have to say about it, what the administration has to say about it, and specifically what areas are currently open to negotiation in the light of the 50% tariffs that were announced.
Sure. The president is certainly not trying to be the emperor of the world. He is a strong president for the United States of America, and he's also the leader of the free world. And we've seen a great shift across the entire globe because of the strong leadership of this president. In regards to Brazil, the president sent a letter to Brazil announcing their new tariff percentage. He also directed our USTR ambassador, Jamison Greer, to launch an investigation of Brazil under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974, designed to address unfair foreign practices that are affecting U.S. commerce. For years, we know Brazil's digital regulations and weak IP protections have undermined U.S. tech and innovative companies, and their tolerance of illegal deforestation and other environmental practices puts American producers, manufacturers, farmers, and ranchers who follow better environmental standards at a competitive disadvantage. So this president always acts in the best interest of the American people and the United States of America, and he will continue to do so. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you later. I appreciate the enthusiasm today.
All right, we're going to leave this and go to a press conference from CMPD that happened just a short time ago, talking about crime statistics. And Jesse Beer has been on that front for us today. It seems like CMPD having some notable changes in terms of crime being lower. There are 2 points that they do want to work on. That's these street takeovers and auto theft. So let's listen in on this press conference to hear more about what their efforts are going to look like.
Good morning. My name is Crystal Fletcher. I'm a lieutenant with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department in the Public Affairs Division. Thank you all for joining us here today. Every quarter, CMPD provides a public safety briefing to ensure transparency and share what we as a department are doing proactively to reduce crime and victimization. Today, we will be sharing our mid-year statistics and explaining what is driving them. This time frame will include January through June of 2025. Before we begin, I want to be clear that this briefing is focused on the first 2 quarters of this year. While we are aware of the recent incidents in Uptown that occurred in July, these events fall outside the reporting period we are discussing today. Even though these incidents are not part of today's data, I do want to remind everyone that an arrest has been made in the officer-involved shooting, and we are grateful that our officer is on the road to recovery. In addition, 2 arrests have been made in connection with the July 13th homicide. I want to ensure you that the investigation is not over and our detectives continue to actively pursue every lead. While that recent violence is deeply concerning, it's also important to recognize the broader progress we are making. I am happy to report that this year, overall crime is down by 8% compared to the same time period last year. This significant reduction is a testament to our collective efforts. Violent crime has seen a dramatic decrease of 25%. This includes homicides, rapes, robberies, and aggravated assaults, which encompass shootings. As for property crimes, Charlotte is down 5%. Property crime includes residential and commercial burglary, auto theft, and larceny. While overall crime is down compared to this same time period in 2024, a trend that we are encouraged by, we remain focused on driving these numbers even lower, addressing persistent crime, and never losing sight of the real impact on those victimized. These numbers are notable because they underscore the reality of Charlotte's safety, not just the perception. These statistics follow national standards set by the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Summary statistics, ensuring they accurately reflect the reality in our community. This progress in public safety is being driven by the daily efforts of our officers, data-driven resource deployment, innovative strategies, and strong, ongoing partnerships with the community. We have several speakers here today to dive deeper into the figures and reasons behind our efforts thus far this year. We ask that you hold all questions until the end of the presentation so we can provide a full picture before addressing individual topics. First up to speak about violent crime and one of our initiatives will be Deputy Chief Ryan Butler. Deputy Chief.
Good morning. I appreciate you being with us today. My name is Ryan Butler, and I currently oversee the Investigative Services Group, which includes both our Special Investigations and Criminal Investigations Bureaus. Our group is essential in investigating crimes involving our most violent offenders and those who seek to poison our communities, ensuring that we address these issues comprehensively. We rely on strong collaboration with all of our stakeholders to tackle crime and keep our community safe. That shared commitment is reflected in a 29% reduction in homicides from January through June of this year compared to the same period in 2024. There have been 42 homicides in the first 2 quarters of this year compared to 59 last year in the same period. While any homicide greater than 0 is too many, we continue to address violent crime. The results through the first half of the year are heartening, but we are profoundly aware that our work continues. In our community, there should be no reason that disputes escalate to the tragic loss of life. Our detectives work tirelessly, seeking justice for families impacted by these impetuous acts. While homicides rightly receive significant attention, many other violent crimes and daily efforts to prevent them often go unreported in the news. From January through June of this year, robberies have dropped by 21% and aggravated assaults by 25%. Compared to the same period in 2024. These are results that reflect consistent behind-the-scenes efforts making a significant impact in our city. Our officers are working diligently across 411 square miles to solve cases, take illegally possessed firearms out of the hands of violent offenders, prevent violent crimes, and guide young people towards safer paths and positive opportunities. Our proactive community efforts include daily zone checks, where officers drive through neighborhoods or stop by a business simply to check in and maintain a visible presence. These actions foster the relationships we build upon to solve and dissuade crime. Already this year, our officers have completed over 150,000 zone checks. This is up 8% versus the same time in 2024. In addition to these efforts, the combined work of our officers has led to significant results this year. There have been over 277,000 police interactions from January through June, up 4% versus 2024, with officers making 8,557 arrests. That's up 13% versus 2024, and seizing 1,991 firearms, an 18% increase over last year. Among those many interactions, one of our proactive initiatives that began in October of last year, which continues to have a positive impact on crime reduction, is the Coordinated Overlap Response Effort, or what we call CORE 13. CORE 13 involves using officers in 2 squads assembled from the patrol divisions across our city. These officers are used to address both persistent and acute crime issues during peak evening overlap staffing. In the first 6 months of 2025, Core 13 deployments have been responsible for 1,219 traffic stops, 51 arrests, and 25 seized firearms. On April 2nd, an example of their work was while officers were conducting patrols in the North Tryon Street corridor when they observed a suspicious vehicle parked illegally. Their attention to detail and investigative work led to 2 arrests, the recovery of 2 stolen firearms, suspected cocaine, and cash. This is just one example of the daily impact Core 13 is having to disrupt violent crime before it happens. I want the community to know that CMPD is doing the work. Our officers and detectives are dedicated and diligent in their effort to keep our communities safe. I'm incredibly proud of our patrol officers who are in our neighborhoods daily, engaging with the community, observing suspicious activity, and providing our detectives with crucial information needed to solve cases and arrest violent offenders. The progress we're making in reducing violent crime comes with strong, ongoing teamwork. We're asking the community to continue being a part of that effort by reporting anything suspicious and sharing information that could help solve crimes. Any tips can be shared anonymously through Charlotte Crime Stoppers at 704-334-1600, through the P3 app, or online at charlottecrimestoppers.com. Working together, we can continue to make a real difference in helping to keep Charlotte safe and continue moving in the right direction that we all desire for our city. Now I'd like to invite Captain Michael Carter to the podium to walk through the department's focused efforts to address property crime across Charlotte. Captain Carter.
Thanks, Chief. My name is Michael Carter. I represent the men and women who serve and work in Steel Creek Division here at CMPD. As you've already heard today, overall property crime is down 5% from January through June 2025. That's this year. But behind the numbers, we're seeing a troubling pattern. Some of these crimes, particularly larceny from autos, are up 3% this year, being committed by younger offenders in our community. In the first quarter of 2024, to address this issue, our department created the Juvenile Accountability and Diversion Empowerment Team, otherwise known as JADE. This team focuses on juvenile investigations, monitors at-risk youth, and works to break the cycle of repeat offending. So far this year, JADE has been responsible for 97 arrests and the seizure of 72 firearms. Our department isn't just focused on making arrests. We are committed to making a difference in the lives of these young people. That's why our JADE officers continue to make home visits to families of these at-risk youth to provide educational resources aimed at prevention and support. So far this year, this team has made 84 home visits. These allow officers an opportunity to build meaningful relationships with the families, fostering trust and support. I'm also encouraged to report the juvenile arrests overall have declined by 16% this year, an early indication that these efforts may be helping. In June, we shared the case of a 15-year-old who had been arrested a total of 8 times by JADE and has additional arrests in other jurisdictions throughout, agencies throughout the jurisdiction. From March 31st through June 5th, this one juvenile racked up 275 charges from 8 local jurisdictions. Over 100 of these charges were for breaking and entering into vehicles and larceny of autos. Think about that for a moment. 275 charges in less than 3 months. If that doesn't alarm you, it should. Our community should be outraged and calling for real solutions and accountability. Thanks to the diligent work of our JADE officers, CMPD is making progress in deterring some of the youth crime and holding violent offenders, even young ones, accountable. While we're seeing progress in our crime statistics overall, property crimes like commercial burglaries show us where targeted attention can make a difference. During the first 2 quarters of this year, burglaries rose by 7%, including an 18% increase in commercial cases. For context, it's important to understand that most of these cases involve repeat offenders. One repeat offender I'll talk about today, Mitchell Morrison, is a convicted felon and was involved in a series of storage unit break-ins in the University City Division. resulting in more than 27 warrants and tens of thousands of dollars in stolen property. Although our officers have worked to recover the stolen property and arrested Morrison multiple times, repeat offenders are often released and able to continue committing crimes in the community. Another contributing factor to the rise in commercial burglaries is how repeat offenders are charged under current laws. When an individual has been banned from a commercial location for shoplifting, for example, returns to shoplift again, officers will show up and make the arrest, charging the subject with commercial burglary. The person committing the crime is ultimately responsible for their actions, but others must step up to ensure that they are held accountable. This includes their families, friends, judges, and agencies that focus on juvenile justice issues. As I wrap up, I would like to remind the citizens of Charlotte to take simple precautions, such as locking their vehicles and securing their valuables, to help reduce these property crimes in our jurisdiction. We also recommend taking advantage of Connect Charlotte, which allows residents and businesses to register cameras and partner with us, to enhance community safety. Please visit visit connectcharlotte.org for more information. Now I would like to introduce Sergeant Kevin Wiggins, who will be speaking on a relevant and hot topic, street takeovers and auto thefts. Sergeant.
Thank you, Captain. Good morning, everybody. Once again, my name is Sergeant Wiggins, and I'm currently assigned to the Special Events Division here at CMPD. I oversee the Street Takeover Task Force unit here at CMPD. Most of you have seen the many street takeover videos on social media showcasing illegal, reckless, and incredibly dangerous car stunts. These stunts involve large crowds standing in the street within inches of fast-moving vehicles. They're doing donuts, drifting, and burnouts. This is not only a safety hazard for those involved, but also a significant nuisance to our community, causing traffic congestion, delays, and damage to property. In recent years, thanks to the part new legislation, we have a greater tool to crack down on these gatherings. For example, participating in takeovers can result in a Class A1 misdemeanor for the first offense and a Class H felony for a second offense within 24 months. Additionally, heavy fines are levied ranging from $1,000 and a bond being placed on a vehicle that is seized for street takeover. The bond that is placed on that vehicle is twice the value of that vehicle. For anyone who hasn't gotten the message yet, consider this a warning. If you come to Charlotte for a street takeover, we will hold you accountable and your vehicle will be impounded. In the first 2 quarters of 2025, CMPD has responded to 25 organized street takeover events. From those 25 events, officers have arrested 7 individuals, issued 84 citations, seized 23 vehicles, 6 firearms, and have signed out 111 warrants. We will continue to track important leads to stay ahead of planned events and take enforcement action. I also want to clear up a common misconception about vehicle seizures that CMPD is involved in. CMPD does not financially benefit from seizing vehicles. State law mandates the vehicle seizure process. If a defendant is found guilty, the vehicle is auctioned by the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office and those funds go to the county school board. If charges are reduced or dismissed, the vehicle is returned to the owner. The only time CMPD takes ownership is in rare cases, either as part of a plea deal or the vehicle is modified to a point where it cannot be auctioned back out to the public. The bottom line is CMPD is focused on safety and accountability, not profit. That's why we continue to rely on your help to keep our streets safe. If you witness or have information about street takeovers, please call 911 and report to us immediately. Your vigilance can prevent dangerous situations and protect our community. Another vehicle-related crime worth highlighting are auto thefts, which are down 22% so far this year, thanks in large part to the continued efforts of our stolen car and recovery enforcement team. Just over 2 years ago, CMPD formed this team, otherwise known as Scarlet. This year alone, the team has made 102 arrests, recovered 85 stolen vehicles valued at over $7 million, and has seized 24 firearms. This is commendable work, not only protecting property owners, but also holding offenders accountable and removing dangerous weapons and substances from the streets of Charlotte. This morning so far, we've covered a lot of ground on crime statistics and the reasons behind them. But now we'd like to talk about a program CMPD developed a few years ago to improve customer service throughout CMPD. Sergeant Jeffrey Joseph will share
key milestones and updates on CMPD serves. Sergeant.
Thank you, Sergeant Wiggins. Good morning. I'm Sergeant Jeffrey Joseph, currently assigned to the Police and Fire Training Academy as a recruit training sergeant. Today, I'm here to talk to you about our training program called CMPD Serves. I'm proud to announce that we are now celebrating our 5-year anniversary of this innovative training program. CMPD Serves was developed in response to the 2020 civil rights demonstration across the country. We became the first law enforcement agency to implement a customer service strategic program. We have pioneered this training, and several other departments nationwide have taken interest. At its core, CMPD Serves is about promoting effective, empathetic, and respectful interactions that truly help build trust within our community and strengthen that relationship. An internal survey was conducted in 2024, which showed that 70% of our employees felt that they have applied knowledge they've learned during this training in their daily duties. The program was recently recognized nationally by the Business Intelligence Group, who named CMPD as the 2025 Organization of the Year for Customer Service Excellence. Since its launch, the program has led to measurable improvements. From 2023 to 2024, use of force incidents has dropped by 24% and occurred in less than 1% of all police interactions. During that same time period, external complaints decreased by 61%, internal complaints went down by 39%, and officer-involved shootings declined by 43%. These outcomes not only reflect just policy shifts, but also a cultural commitment to service and accountability by our officers department. One example of the reinforcement and culture shift is an award that we award our employees called Acts of Excellence. An Acts of Excellence is a certificate that we issue to employees who go above and beyond the call of duty. As our dedicated employees perform impactful work each day, these awards provide well-deserved positive reinforcement. Nominations for these awards come from reviewing body-worn camera footage, internal nomination from colleagues, as well as supervisors, and letters from the community. So far this year, I'm pleased to announce that we have presented 137 Acts of Excellence. We would like to invite you to experience the positive change CMPD Serves have brought to our community. Now I'd like to invite Lieutenant Crystal Fletcher back to the podium to conclude this briefing.
That concludes the speaker portion of our press conference. Now I would like to invite all of the speakers back up to the podium, and we will open it up for a few questions. Yes.
I was wondering if there's any updates on the drone pilot program that was mentioned a couple of press conferences ago.
We don't have any updates for you today, but we will follow up with you, and any information that we have, we will release from the Public Affairs Division.
WCNC. I know drive-by shootings or shootings into dwellings was a big issue in the past and so forth, and then you guys had the award or reward system where if someone, I think, made some kind of was able to help get rid of the arrest and so forth, there was like a $500 or something reward and so forth. Any updates on that? Is shooting into dwellings and drive-by shootings? I know I've been looking at the significant reports and so forth, and there's just I've been seeing so many continued drive-by shootings into dwellings. Is that a continued issue? Is there any updates on that?
Well, I can tell you, and I know that we're going to be sharing some juvenile data, and a lot of times that previously has been our focus, and that fortunately that number is down. What I'll tell you is we continue to use a collaborative approach. So, you know, Captain Carter talked about our JADE program. When we have previously identified offenders, you know, we're trying to work with those individuals and their families to avail themselves of resources, which allows them to make better choices. We have a lot of collaboration between our patrol units, our Special Investigations Bureau detectives, and our Patrol Division investigators to focus on those. You know, we use, you know, the resources we have, fortunately, in our own crime laboratory to be able to tie those cases together, which, of course, makes a much more effective package for the District Attorney's Office to prosecute those cases.
Well, while we're talking about Jade, can you touch on the scope of that unit? How many officers are assigned to that? You know, are they full-time assigned to that, or do they have other duties as well, that kind of thing?
So those officers come from several of our patrol divisions. That is their full-time tasking. The unit is split up into two efforts. So part of the unit is more investigative in nature, as far as trying to solve crimes that we've tied back to juvenile offenders. And then we have officers whose focus is on doing the home visits that Captain Carter referenced, trying to outreach to the families, trying to make connections with them so we can help them access opportunities that fortunately exist in our city, so that the families and identified youth can choose a better path, can make better choices for themselves and their families.
And how many officers were part of that?
You know, current is 8 officers.
8, 2 sergeants.
8 officers and 2 sergeants currently.
And based off the results we saw here, is there a plan to expand that in coming years or to grow that?
So we constantly evaluate staffing levels, but of course JADE doesn't work in a vacuum. There's a lot of overlap between the work done by our JADE officers and our crime gun suppression team detectives and our violent crime apprehension team detectives, and then of course investigators across various units. So much like every part of CMPD, we don't work in a vacuum, and so a lot of the collaboration generates leads from one area. You might have an investigation going on in Criminal Investigations Bureau where there may be or possibly be a juvenile offender, and one of the JADE officers has a previous relationship or familiarity based on previous investigation, and then they collaborate on that. So although the unit is a specified size, they're working with units across the entire city.
We're going to break away from this. We have a tragic update from the Lake Norman investigation. It sounds like police and rescuers have recovered a body. We believe a 16-year-old. We got this from the Iredell County Sheriff just moments ago, that on Thursday, July 17th, around 3:20 p.m., the Iredell County Sheriff's Office received a call about a drowning that occurred in Lake Norman in the area of Catalina Drive near Mooresville. Deputies arrived on scene. They learned that the 16-year-old male juvenile had been swimming in Lake Norman and had not returned to the surface. The Iredell County Sheriff's Office Lake Patrol Unit quickly responded to that location. We brought you, obviously, shots of that, and they immediately used sonar equipment and a remotely operated vehicle in the search effort. Multiple local fire agencies and the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission assisted in the search, among other agencies and jurisdictions as well. At approximately 6:43 p.m., the body of 16-year-old Caleb Shields located underwater by this remotely operated vehicle, and the body was recovered and then transported to shore. The sheriff added that they are extending their deepest condolences to the family and friends of this young person whose life was lost today. That's the end quote. So a tragic update. I guess completion of a story that we brought to you on our news, both at 5:30 and 6. We broke this news to you when we were on air, not obviously knowing what would happen. We did hear that obviously they were searching for this missing child or person on the shore of the lake. But now we have that confirmed, that the 16-year-old drowned in Lake Norman just earlier this evening. So we'll get more information from police. I'm sure there's an investigation ongoing into what exactly happened, but any other updates come across, we'll of course let you know. So we do want to go to, we do have, I think, Leader Jeffries, Hakeem Jeffries, who spoke a little bit earlier, not just him, but a number of other Democrats pushing back on not just the big beautiful bill, but a number of other issues that they wanted to talk about earlier today.
Good afternoon, everyone. The American people desperately want an economy that is affordable for hard-working taxpayers. Donald Trump and House Republicans promised that costs would go down in the United States of America. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. They certainly have not gone down on day one, as Republicans promised the American people. Inflation is on the way up. Life is getting more expensive. And Donald Trump and House Republicans are driving the economy off of a cliff. Donald Trump and House Republicans have done nothing, not a single thing, to make life more affordable for hardworking American taxpayers. The one big ugly law will do nothing to meaningfully address the cost of living crisis that we have in this country. In fact, the one big ugly law will make life more expensive for everyday Americans, particularly as it relates to utility bills in this country. Utility bills are going to go up as a result of the actions that have been taken by Donald Trump and Republicans. More than 17 million people are going to lose their health care as a result of the action taken by Donald Trump and Republicans. Children, veterans, and seniors who are hungry are going to lose their nutritional assistance as it relates to the actions taken by Donald Trump and House Republicans connected to the one big ugly law. And all of this has been done to reward billionaires with massive tax breaks, and at the same time skyrocket and explode the debt by more than $3 trillion. It's unconscionable what Donald Trump and House Republicans have done to hurt the American people. The job of those of us who are in public service should be at all times to make life better for everyday Americans, to improve the quality of life for the American people, to ensure, as Democrats are focused on, that when you work hard and play by the rules in the United States of America, you should be able to afford to live the good life. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, good education for your children, and a good retirement. That's the American dream, and far too many people are unable to achieve it, even though they're working hard and playing by the rules. Republicans haven't made it easier to achieve the American dream. They are making it harder for everyday Americans. And that's a shame. Questions?
Mr. Leader, good morning. Good afternoon, I should say.
Good to see you.
Do you expect any delay tactics tonight to try to stall this? You set a record with a speech just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, it's not clear what the challenges are right now in terms of why Republicans have been unable to bring these bills to the floor so we can actually debate them and lay out for the American people why their efforts to slash and burn funding is going to hurt public health, public safety, and the dissemination of public information to places like small towns and rural America. That's going to be the impact of the rescissions package. And so, as of the moment, we're just looking forward to an active and robust debate on the House floor so we can lay out for the American people why Republicans continue to take steps to hurt them as opposed to helping them.
So not anticipating a magic minute like you did a couple of weeks ago?
I do expect to participate in the debate, and I expect that I will speak longer than a minute.
Mr. Leader, though. Thank you, Mr. Leader. I want to get your reaction to comments that OMB Director Russ Vought made at a breakfast with reporters this morning when he said that he didn't think that the appropriations process should be bipartisan going forward. Do you agree with that? What are your comments on the appropriations process if this rescissions package passes? Do you think that that hurts the spirit of bipartisanship that you try to approach these negotiations with?
The Trump administration and House and Senate Republicans are trying to march America toward a painful government shutdown. That's the reality. We've known that to be the case, and now Russell Vought is saying the quiet part out loud. That the Trump administration has no interest in reaching a spending agreement in a bipartisan manner, which means, translation, they are determined to shut the government down and hurt the American people.
Just to be clear, are you considering a possible speech that would be long enough to mean the deadline for passing rescissions tomorrow night could pass?
I'm surprised how much attention the Magic Minute is generating at this particular point in time.
Well, the fate of all this money could come to that.
I think Democrats are going to continue to fight hard and do everything we can to make sure that we are pushing back aggressively against this rescissions package, which is going to hurt the American people.
Speaker Johnson's reportedly considering putting a non-binding resolution on the floor calling for the release of all the files related to Jeffrey Epstein. Would that be satisfactory at this moment, or do you think Democrats at this point need to see something like the Khanna Amendment, which would actually force the release of those documents?
The Khanna Amendment is the most appropriate step that can be taken in order to provide the American people with the transparency they deserve in terms of this whole sordid, scandalous, and corrupt Jeffrey Epstein matter. This is very simple. The American people simply need to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as it relates to this situation. Democrats didn't put this into the public domain. Conspiracy theory provocateur in chief, Donald Trump, is the one, along with his extreme MAGA Republican associates, who put this whole thing into the public domain for years. And now they are reaping what they have sown.
On that same topic, do you expect all Democrats to be signing on to the discharge petition to release Epstein information?
It's my understanding that the discharge petition may not even ripen until after we return from the August district work period. So let's take one step at a time. And the most important thing that can be done at this moment is for Congress to act in a bipartisan way to demand that the American people get the transparency that they deserve. What is the Trump administration hiding from the American people? That's the question that needs to be answered.
What are you hoping to learn from your meeting, provided it happens tomorrow, with Assemblyman Mamdani? And on top of that, Republicans are certainly trying to cast him as a liability for Democrats. Do you see him as such?
We're going to have a very robust discussion in the event that we are able to proceed tomorrow, but at some point shortly thereafter, if we are not, about quality of life issues important to the people that I represent in the 8th Congressional District in New York, related to affordability, safety, and the ability to make sure that New York City remains a place that working families, middle-class folks, and all those who aspire to be part of the middle class can continue to call home. At the same period of time, I do look forward to having a conversation with our Democratic nominee about the importance of everyone being on the same page in terms of taking back control of the House of Representatives in 2026.
On the issue of redistricting, you were asked a couple of days ago about whether governors in blue states should draw mid-decade lines to counter the efforts in Texas and North Carolina. You would defer to those governors. Since then, Gavin Newsom has come out pretty strongly and said he's ready to pull the trigger and do that to counter what's going on in Texas. Given that development, can you weigh in a little bit more? Do you think it's a good idea, a bad idea? Does it set a bad precedent? And are you in discussions with the governor about doing that very thing?
It's all options on the table at this moment because of the existential threat that Republicans have posed to the health, safety, and economic well-being of the American people. As Democrats, we just want fair maps across the country. And to the extent that governors in different states throughout the nation conclude that a reevaluation as to whether their current maps are as fair as possible should take place, that certainly is a decision that makes sense to me in this environment.
The House is expected to vote on a trio of crypto bills later today or perhaps tomorrow. I'm just wondering if you know yet how you'll be planning to vote, because I know Democratic leaders aren't planning to whip those bills.
I certainly will make a decision about all three bills in advance of me arriving on the floor of the House of Representatives. We, as you have pointed out, have made the decision not to whip those bills, and so every single member, myself included, are evaluating the individual merits of each of those pieces of legislation to determine what makes the most sense for the communities that we're privileged to represent.
And relatedly, with the defense bill, the total defense spending this year is going to be at or above $1 trillion for the first time. I'm wondering if you have any specific concerns about the spending there, allocations, if you think it should, be different in any significant ways.
Here's the thing about Donald Trump, House Republicans, and the GOP. These are people who have for years claimed to be the party of fiscal responsibility. They're not the party of fiscal responsibility. These people are reckless and irresponsible as it relates to taxpayer dollars. Republicans just passed this one big ugly law that explodes the debt and the deficit and is leading America down a path of potential economic disaster and bankruptcy as a result of Republicans jamming this extreme partisan bill down the throats of the American people. We clearly have to get our fiscal house in order, but it is certainly the case that Republicans have zero credibility as it relates to spending taxpayer dollars in a manner that is efficient, effective, and equitable. Politics, at the end of the day, is about the management of public money. And the one thing that is clear right now is that Republicans have determined to manage that money in a way that hurts everyday Americans and rewards billionaires with massive tax breaks. And they clearly are also in the business of rewarding their donors and special interests that they feel will serve their political interests, but that we know undermine the public interest. Last question.
Thank you, Leader. A new report came out a couple months ago saying that Social Security funds, as well as some other entitlement programs, may be on, at risk of losing money sooner than expected. What do you think the Democrats' strategy should be to save those programs from solvency? Is it just simply taxing the rich, or are there other strategies that you have?
Well, let me first make the observation that Social Security and Medicare are not entitlement programs. Republicans call them entitlement programs because they believe, these extremists, that they're entitled to cut them. Social Security and Medicare are earned benefits. Hardworking American taxpayers pay into those programs through the FICA tax every single working day of their lives. They've earned those benefits, they've paid into those benefits, they deserve their Social Security and Medicare benefits. By the way, in this one big ugly law, it is likely to trigger more than $500 billion in cuts to Medicare, which is extraordinary. And we know the Republicans also have put Social Security on the chopping block. The 60th anniversary of Medicare and Medicaid is going to take place on July 30th, and House Democrats will have a Medicare Matters and Medicaid Matters Day of Action, talking about our efforts to both protect and strengthen Medicare and Medicaid and push back against the dramatic cuts to Medicaid that were part of the One Big Ugly Law. A few weeks after that, on August 7th, I believe, that is the 90th anniversary of Social Security. And we'll be having a Save Social Security Day of Action. And we'll have more to say about that as we approach it. But certainly, I'm greatly appreciative of the effort of leaders like John Larson and Richie Neal, who have previously put forth legislation, Social Security 2100 Act, that is an important part of our strategy to both protect Social Security and strengthen Social Security. There's a big difference between Democrats and Republicans. And we are going to continue to fight for everyday Americans, for children, for veterans, for farmers, for hardworking American families, and for older Americans, which means our message to Republicans will continue to be clear. Keep your hands off of Social Security and Medicare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take you away from this, obviously just wrapping. We do want to go to the Attorney General speaking about threats against Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Atlanta. This just happened this week, that a Maryland man has been arrested and charged with making those threats against her. Investigators say the suspect was a longtime employee at Voice of America. Let's get more information from the Attorney General on this.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are taking a stand against those individuals who seek to threaten and intimidate public officials. This morning, the United States Capitol Police executed an arrest warrant resulting in the arrest of an individual by the name of Seth Jason, who is 64 years old. He resides in Maryland. And they also seized a laptop, several telephones, an iPad, as well as thumb drives. Now, Jason is charged with threatening to murder Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, as well as members of her family. The threats were repeatedly and continuously made from October of 2023 through the end of January this year. Now, the quotes included statements like, "I'm looking forward to your book signing. We are all armed and ready to take care of you. We're coming after you and your staff, and we are locked and loaded. We're going to take you all out. We've got our AK-47s. You're going to get one between the eyes. Bam, bam, bam." Also threatened were all of the staff at the Congresswoman's office, as well as the staff members' families. Now, this case is even more egregious because the individual, Seth Jason, is a rogue former full-time federal government employee at Voice of America. And he actually used phones located in the control rooms where broadcasters were reporting. And Voice of America, by the way, which is an organization that reaches millions around the world and apparently communicates in 49 different languages. Now, through the leadership of President Trump, this sprawling federal bureaucracy is being held accountable, including through the work of Carrie Lake, who is senior advisor to the U.S. Agency for Global Media, which oversees Voice of America. Now, my office is going to continue to hold government employees to the highest standards, and make no mistake, this defendant here is also, disappointingly, a reserve officer with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Now, let me just talk about the effects of this kind of thing. No one should have to live their life looking over their shoulder every day and wondering if those threats are about to be fulfilled and about to come true. And the threat to murder, have your family murdered as well as yourself, is debilitating for a lot of people. And they create a climate of fear, as well as disrupting one's ability to actually perform their duties. So my message today should be loud and clear. This behavior is a crime. You threaten a public official, and you'll face the full force of the law crushing down on you. There will be no mercy and no excuses. And I would like to thank the Office of the State Department's Inspector General, but also the Capitol Police, who have been working on this case for several years, and we have with us Chief Mike Sullivan. Chief?
Thank you, Judge. This has got to stop. I've been here for 3 weeks and met with members of Congress consistently and hear a consistent message. This has changed since Minnesota. We are going to work very, very hard to hold you accountable if you make these threats. I want to commend the incredible work of the men and women of the Capitol Police. They came together as a team to put this investigation together, to bring it to the U.S. Attorney, to come to this day. And they are still working on this investigation as we speak. So once again, I want to thank the men and women of the Capitol Police who every single day go out and dedicate themselves to make sure that we protect the people that we're sworn to protect. Thank you. And I also want to thank the State Inspector General for their assistance on the case, and the Anne Arundel County Police who were there this morning on the scene, helping us on the scene surf the warrant. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Any questions?
Is he still in custody, and does he have an initial court appearance?
Yes, he's got a presentation within the hour. It is a 4-count indictment that has just been unsealed.
Do you know what he did for Voice of America, or does?
He is retired from Voice of America just a couple of months ago, so I understand that he's now unemployed.
And the 4 counts are?
You know what? That's the one thing that... Do you have the file on this? Hang on. They involve obviously the threats as well as communication versus the telephones, as well as the intent to annoy and abuse and harass. But the original 2 charges are 18 U.S.C. 115A, influencing a federal official by threatening a family member. And basically, the statute reads that you threaten, hang on to that, that you threaten a family, you threaten an official with killing a member of their family in the hopes that you will prevent them from doing their official duty or in retaliation for something that they have already done. That's count 1. And the second one is influencing a federal official by threat. That's the straight out threat, I'm going to kill you, as well as anonymous telecommunications harassment. And obviously the federal hook there is the telecommunications. And there is also the interstate communications with the threat to kidnap and injure. Serious stuff here. And to have to live your life with that kind of thing, we're locked and loaded, we're coming for you, is not a comfortable thing. Yes, sir.
Was there any investigation into whether this person may have also been responsible for the swatting incidents that
Yeah. Suffered? Well, that's a good question. I don't think that we have any reason to believe that based upon what we know right now. But as the chief just indicated, I mean, we executed a search warrant. When we get a return on that information, you know, we'll find out if there's more to comment on. Yes, sir.
Do you have any reason to believe he was actually in possession of an AK-47? I think that one of those threats that you cited said that he was. Did you guys see any guns today as part of this?
Good question. There were no rifles or guns that were seized today, correct?
That's my understanding.
That's our understanding, and we're sticking with it because that's what we know.
Where was he arrested? What town?
Maryland. What town in Maryland?
I believe it was Edgewater, Maryland.
Edgewater. I'm new to the area. You're here 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
8.
I have a couple
So he
questions.
was charged in Edgewater, and he has to be brought
No,
to
no,
DC.
he was arrested in Edgewater and brought here. He's going to be arraigned in a couple minutes.
Okay.
No, presented.
Mr. I have a couple questions for you about the recent firings of DOJ personnel, including people who work for your office.
Yeah, I'm not getting into that stuff right now. I'm here to fight crime, and that's just what I'm going to do.
In his capacity as a reserve police officer in Anne Arundel County, does that mean exactly, and would he have access to weapons as part of
That I don't know. Do you know?
I would refer you to Anne Arundel
Yeah.
County for that question.
Yeah.
Judge,
All right, guys.
Quick question for you, Judge. You got through the Judiciary Committee today. You did something that your predecessor was not able to do. Any idea why were you able to get through that the committee? And have you made?
I did something that who wasn't able to do?
Your predecessor, Ed Martin, wasn't able to get.
Oh,
through.
my
Your
predecessor.
Yes.
You think I'm going to touch that? No. It's good to see you all. Thank you.
All right, we are going away from this. We'll get more information, obviously, as things move along. We do want to go now to a press conference. Remind me where we're going, Jeff. I'm sorry.
State Department.
State Department. That's right. Tammy Bruce obviously updating us with everything that we need to know today. Her second consecutive press conference of the week. We'll go to this now.
Seems like it was just yesterday that I was here. That's great. Oh my gosh, Nadia is gracing us with her presence. Welcome back from the White House coverage you've been doing.
Thank you.
But we were proud of you, if I may say. And yes, very good job. And not a lot of people would be as composed. I certainly am not when I'm there and talking to him. Yes, very impressive. So I do have a few comments for you as we begin the briefing here today at State. To begin, an update on the situation in Syria. The United States unequivocally condemns this violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. Well, whoever's got the music going, that's a lovely touch, but we really need it to be turned off. All right.
Sorry, can you repeat it again?
I'm going to start again at the stop. Please turn off your phones. Please. Turn off the sound. Do not disturb. You don't have to have it on airport, but although I could say that we are an airplane, but we're not. Let's start again, shall we? And welcome aboard to everybody watching at home. We know C-SPAN covers this live as well. We appreciate that. And of course, we're a little late today, but actually, every time is the perfect time because our colleague Caroline had her later briefing, so here we are right now. So to begin, an update on the situation in Syria. The United States unequivocally condemns the violence. All parties must step back and engage in meaningful dialogue that leads to a lasting ceasefire. In a tweet this morning, Ambassador Tom Barrack, also, of course, our special envoy for Syria, said, "Thankful to all sides for their break from chaos and confusion as we attempt to navigate all parties to a more durable and peaceful solution in Syria." Over the last 48 hours, the United States has led diplomatic efforts to promote real de-escalation and peace. As Secretary of State Marco Rubio noted yesterday, we have engaged all the parties involved in the clashes in Syria. We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight. This will require all parties to deliver on the commitments they have made, and this is what we fully expect them to do. We are actively engaging all constituencies in Syria to navigate towards calm and continued discussions on integration and a stable, more prosperous future for all Syrians. To that end, we are calling on the Syrian government to lead in determining the path forward. Now, today, the United States also sanctioned TDA leader Hector Rutherford Guerrero Flores, also known as Nino Guerrero, and 5 other key members. The Department of State, through the Transnational Organized Crime Rewards Program, managed by the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, is offering a reward of up to $5 million for information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Guerrero. TDA is a foreign terrorist organization that originated in Venezuela and has launched a campaign of terror throughout our hemisphere. We are determined to protect Americans by eliminating TDA's vicious criminal activities. In addition, yesterday the United States, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and the United Kingdom marked the UK's ascension to the Comprehensive Security, Integration and Prosperity Agreement, CCPA. This milestone framework builds on the historic Abraham Accords and is aimed at fostering broader integration in the Middle East, bolstering mutual deterrence against external threats, and expanding cooperation to advance security, stability, and prosperity in the region. And finally, for today's topper, starting today, Secretary Rubio decided to end the ordered departure status for the U.S. Mission Iraq personnel, including personnel at the U.S. Embassy Baghdad and U.S. Consulate General Erbil. Personnel who are temporarily relocated outside of Iraq will begin a gradual return to U.S. Embassy Baghdad and Consulate General Erbil. The State Department's travel advisory for Iraq remains at a level 4, which of course translates to do not travel. We remain strongly committed to advancing our policy priorities in Iraq, strengthening Iraq's sovereignty, advancing U.S. business interests, and engaging with Iraqi leaders and the Iraqi people. The State Department, U.S. Embassy Baghdad, and Consulate General Erbil will continue to closely monitor and assess, as you might imagine, the security situation across Iraq and the region. And that is the conclusion of my announcements. And I'm ready to take your questions, and we'll start with the young lady who was in the White House first, so we'll start with Nadia right now.
Thank you. I want to follow up with what you said. The president spoke with Prime Minister Netanyahu. He just issued a statement to say he's very sorry about targeting, or not targeting, but by attacking this church. He said it was done by mistake. But the State Department and the White House put a priority on protecting minorities, especially Christians. How can you make sure that Christians in Gaza are protected? We have 3 people dead, including an 88-year-old woman from Ayyad family. And to make sure that these people are not actually targeted, but as the Prime Minister said, because there have been many incidents before time, as you know. They targeted the Russian Orthodox Church before.
Yes, well, in this case, of course, it was an accident. I think that the response from Netanyahu is an appropriate start. Of course, we share condolences to the citizens, the civilians' deaths at the Roman Catholic Church. We have asked that Israel investigate the strike still, of course, and ensure that all civilians, including Christian civilians, remain safe. That's one of our, of course, regular asks of everyone as we try to stop war and engage with ceasefires because of the horrible dynamics that exist across the world when this goes on. There's no benefit to this, any kind of military action, no real benefit at all. So Israel did express a deep sorrow over the damage and over any civilian casualties, and the IDF, they do note, is investigating. And of course, for further information, we refer you to the government of Israel. I can tell you, as I think Caroline also noted, that President Trump also spoke to the Prime Minister, and I think it's an understatement to say that he was not happy that this is, again, the kind of thing that reinforces his commitment to peace around the world. I've spoken with the Secretary today at length on a number of issues. Obviously, everyone is appalled. I can tell you, for those who haven't seen it and for those at home, the Israeli Foreign Ministry has said, Israel expresses deep sorrow over the damage to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and over any civilian casualty. The IDF is examining the incident, the circumstances of which is still unclear, and the results of the investigation will be published transparently. Israel never targets churches or religious sites and regrets any harm to a religious site or to uninvolved civilians. The IDF has a statement as well. The IDF is aware of reports regarding damage caused to the Holy Family Church in Gaza City and casualties at the scene. The circumstances of the incident are under review. The IDF makes every feasible effort to mitigate harm to civilians and civilian structures, including religious sites, and regrets any damage caused to them. So this is, I think, a good indication of their realizing what the world expects, what we expect, and of course appreciating POTUS's contact as well, which is helpful for all of us. Nadia, one more. Yes, ma'am.
Syria. Yesterday, the secretary told us at the Oval Office that the conflict in Sweden is between the Bedouins and the Druze. Do you rule out any involvement of foreign fighters or ISIS fighters in what we have seen, witnessed in the last 3 days, including atrocities against civilians?
Well, there will be some continued, obviously there will need to be some continued investigation of the nature of what's occurred. We saw, of course, the President and the Secretary note, both of them, that they've been involved, and certainly our Special Envoy, Tom Barrack, is also, of course, the ambassador to Turkey. And we know what we know at this point. Clearly, there has to be more investigation into the nature of how this started, but ultimately, the discussion.
All right, that's it for WCNC Plus, the stream today from 7 to 9. Of course, we'll be back with you tonight at 11 on WCNC. Don't forget our linear show. And then again tomorrow, we'll be starting streaming again at 4:30 with our morning team. Of course, tonight we'll be focused on some of the heat and humidity. And we'll talk with that with our Impact Weather team. We'll see you tonight.